I'm still waiting to go and get my extractor. I'm still waiting for the cylinder head nuts that I need to get the studs out to come. So rather than sit about, the obvious thing is to continue stripping the bike. And the next item, I think, is to get rid of some of the lesser parts. So starting at the front end, we have our loose headlight because of the bus mountings. Now I think the correct procedure, I believe, is to undo the indicators, which would then release a headlamp and them from these metal supports. However, they're already broken. They're held on at the top by two acorn nuts. So I'm going to remove them, gently place the headlight down, trace the wiring back to the loom to where it's cut, and then feed it back and remove the whole lot as one assembly so I can take it apart on the bench. So I'll bring you back when I've undone the two acorn nuts, because hopefully there's nothing terribly exciting about undoing them. I'm not expecting any major problems. Ha ha. Right, headlight is off and dangling down there. The wiring loom comes round the forks into a rubber grommet on the side, which I'm now just pulled out slightly. Everything has been disconnected, so hopefully it will all just come undone. And once again, my hopes are dashed because something's connected round there. So hang on one second, we'll go and find out what we've got round there. It was the oil pressure switch down at the bottom on the front of the engine, which I'd completely forgotten about. So with that done, the whole lot should come off. Let's have a look. Oh, I'm not doing well here, am I? Because I've completely missed this little subloom with the white leads. So, yet again, I'm going to have to have a look. Hold on. Brake light switch this time. I'm not used to having newfangled ideas like brake light switches on old British bikes. So, again, my own stupidity. Anyway, not the traditional way of removing it, as I say, but convenient in this particular case. So now I will just remove that in its entirety to the bench, where it can be stripped and inspected later. I will then now disconnect the other broken mount, get rid of these two cables, get the clocks off, which will involve undoing the very large nuts on top of the fork legs. And I may just take the switches off first as well and undo the cables. Anyway, we shall see in a minute. Right, the cables at the instrument end are just held by two knurled nuts, which with a little downward pressure just unscrew. There should be some electrics in there as well, which are not there at the minute because they were dangling out. Now these should just come out of their rubber cups, I'm hoping. Down or up? That's the question. Let's try down first. Here we go. Yes, there we go. Look about downwards. No. This is actually slightly bent. I don't know if you can see that on camera. Particularly as I'm possibly in your way, but anyway, that's bent there. Let's try this one. Oh no, can't do that one because of the trip knob. So this will have to come up. There we go. There we are. That's that one. Right. Try get the to come out the same way upwards. Yes, there we go. Lovely. Because the electrics are all been disconnected, I'm going to do the same with the handlebars now as I did with the headlamp. And just take it all off as one assembly, which can then be stripped and inspected later. So I'm just going to undo the clutch cable, and the brake cable obviously on the other side. The choke's already undone, the electrics are already disconnected because they're being changed anyway. Let's try and get that cable, no, let's try and get this lined up so I can get that cable out. Come on. That should just pull through there, which it doesn't want to do. Okay, let's try that way. There we go. It's all a bit stiff. There we go. Right. I'll go and do exactly the same on the other side for the brake. You don't need to see that. And then I will undo the two mounts that go through the top yoke. I'll bring you back for that. Just out of interest, that's threaded for a handlebar. That's threaded for a rear view mirror. This is the correct side for a rear view mirror for the USA. The moulding like this on the UK side isn't even threaded, it's just blank. So you would imagine it would have been cheaper for the factory just to thread them both, so that no matter which market it was going to, there would have been an available screw hole, but it clearly has not been done on that side, which I find strange. Anyway, I'll bring you back for these once I've undone the brake cable. Okay, cables are off. Brake cable was a bit of a pain, but it's off nonetheless. Which leaves us the two P mounts, which are rubber insulated mounts through the yoke. The rubber looks really cracked and deformed, so they're going to need replacing. And it's held by two nuts under here. Try and get on without getting in your way. Oh, tight all the way. That one's not good. That one's actually loose. There we go, nothing like consistency. Handlebars off. Oh, you little bugger. Right, that's them off. We have two top rubber bushes and mounts, totally shagged out, and the ones actually in the yoke really don't look that much better, but I'll look at them more closely later. We've got a steering lock, which I don't think I've got a key for, although I'm pretty certain I have one left over from my Bonneville rebuild, which didn't fit the Bonneville. Okay, so normally I think I would have just dropped the legs out now with the front wheel and stripped them down, but until we get this engine out, I want the stability, so I think we'll move to the rear and take the back mudguard out next. The rear mudguard has two large mounted bolts down here, nuts and bolts through the back of the frame. And then moving up across slightly. There's a small centre one there, which is rather rusty. And then at the back, a couple of nuts and bolts passing through the rear frame loop. Now, given the wiring has already been cut, because I'm replacing a loom, I intend doing with this exactly what I did at the front, which is to remove the entire thing with the rear light, indicators, everything as an assembly, which will then be taken apart on the bench. So to that end, I've also disconnected the breather pipe which runs along the mudguard, because it's held on by small nuts and bolts which seem really rusty on the underside of the mudguard, unsurprisingly. So that's what I'm going to do next. Whether that will work without removing the grab rail, we shall have to see. But to be honest, removing the grab rail is not a big deal either, because it's only held on by the top shock absorber mounts. So I might just undo them anyway. So I'll do the rusty ones first and bring you back when I'm nearer the time to remove it, because again, there's not much point watching me fight with rusty old nuts and bolts. It's not that exciting. All the mounting bolts are off. That one was really a pain because of the rust. I have undone the grab rail to the top shock absorber mount. I'll show you another aspect of that in 1 second once we've got this off. But now this is all disconnected, the whole assembly should come off in one piece. Which it does. And I can just put that on the bench and strip it further when I've now got better access. In the process of taking the mudguard off, I also removed the 2 rear footrests, just because I was down there in that area. And then this S-shaped bracket, which is a Firebird high level exhaust mounting bracket. And these are the 2 non-standard chrome strips that proved so troublesome to get the silencers off in a previous video. So they'll be going, and I'll be trying to find the original fitment, so I don't have to go through that process again. Okay, let's pull the handlebars apart. The choke lever and cable are just held on by 2 screws, so we'll whip them off. They weren't very tight. Come on, magnetic tip's very strong. Right, that's that out of the way, that'll clean. Cable should pull out, which it does. So clean that up, lubricate the cable, that's suitable for reuse, nothing wrong with that at all. And then we'll look at the handlebar grips. Well, of course they're not grips, they're switch housings. I don't know why I said grips. Other than the fact I'm a bit mad. We'll try that one. Is that any better? Let's have a look. No. We shall try that one and see what we can get. It's all 4 out of the way. That's the inside of your switch. Again, that looks pretty good. I've seen these very badly corroded. The Bonneville one was also good, but I have seen others like this where they've been really crusty inside. But that doesn't look too bad. That should clean up nicely. The wiring sleeve should clean up nicely. And the bullet connectors all look good. That's been cut. I'll get that off. I'd say that's definitely reusable. Ooh. Better if I don't go losing the screws, so I'm going to put them down. Because that's very, very stupid. So the handlebar mounts just clamp through. They go through the top yoke. That section is a bit that sits in the rubber bushes, metal sleeve to rubber bushes, sort of metallastic type bush, as an anti-vibration measure. So we shall just loosen these off. Oh, we will. Oh, there we go. A little tight, but there you go. They've got sleeves underneath as well, so they're going to have to come off the handlebars. Let me just get something to open that up, because they're still a little tight. I think what we'll have to do is separate that from that and then slide them both off. Let's go and get the large screwdriver, see if we can separate them a bit, just to get them moving. Did that help any? Not a lot. You can see what I'm trying to do, I hope. If you look there, you can see the other part. Let me just get another screwdriver, see if I can poke it through. Apologies for the sniffing again, but it is cold in here still. Is that going to move? Yes. Like so. Right. In 2 halves. Which now leaves that nice and loose. And that will just slide off the handle. So there we go. I'll do the same with this one. And I'll also remove the second electrical connecting block instrument. Oh, you know what? Sometimes, some days, I wonder if my brain's working at all. Switchgear is the word I was actually looking for, but for some reason it wouldn't come to my head at all. So I'm going to do the same to that and remove it. Then I'm going to remove the switchgear from the other handlebar end, and that will be the handlebar stripped apart from the grip. So come back to me again in 1 second when this will be gone, and we'll see what we've got on that end. The previous owners obviously had a problem with this switchgear moving around on the bars, because he's added all this, or she has added all this tape. And the grips, if we just turn that around and show you, are split, and it looks like there's been additional glue dribbled in to try and stop them moving. Anyway, so I'm just going to cut those off. That'll probably peel anyway, as it's split. Yeah, there we go. Oh, I'm getting weaker. There we go. So, no, it actually looks like it may be the original glue. And it's only in the middle, it's all the way around. There's your anti-vibration grips. I think that is original glue looking at it. So we'll just cut this off. The Tesco knife. stuck down. Oh, well, there's a rubber under there. I think they may have stuck a bit of rubber under the tape to build it up. Is it just tape? No, it's just tape. Okay, there's no point taking any more of that off because these bars will not be seeing the motorcycle again. That's a rather peculiar and not original, which might be why they've had problems with the switchgear not attaching very well. Anyway, I'll be getting genuine, or remanufactured no doubt, Firebird style bars. Next up, the headlamp shell. Damaged rim, sadly. I might try polishing that and just see what it looks like. It is part of the history of the bike and it isn't that badly damaged. I'll see. So we've got the rim secured by a single screw, is it? Single screw? Yep, single screw. So we'll pop that off first. That should have freed the rim off, but it hasn't. There we go. So let's just disconnect that. I'm not sure how that comes off. Oh, okay. So let's bring you in a little bit if we can, and move you up a little bit if we can. Now, I don't know if you can see that, but we have some bare wires twisted together here. I'm not entirely sure what that is. That must be the headlight switch, mustn't it? So somebody's done some fiddling about, because that shouldn't just be twisted together there, should it? So that's screwed in there, and somebody just wound that round there. But it's the right colour wiring, and the screws seem right. Strange. Anyway, so headlamp off. Standard Lucas. Bulbs in there. Bulb is loose in there. I'll have to get that apart. Standard clips holding it in. Side lights. So should we look at that shortly. There's all our headlamp wiring. Complete with missing bits. Now, where's that come from? That has come from there, hasn't it? That's got to be the contacts for that. Yes, got to be. So our bulb holder, well, our bulb contacts to the holder is broken. So let's disconnect them. So yeah, that shouldn't happen. So that we need a new one of those for sure, because that's fallen apart. We've got indicators here, which will be for high beam and neutral probably. And then we have our Lucas indicators, which act as the headlamp support to the wire brackets. And then there's a large, very strong internal bar joining the two together. So I'll just undo these and I'll strip the bowl of the wiring and the lights. Again, I don't think there's that much excitement to be had there. not entirely sure why they disconnect or how they disconnect. They must go out through the bowl. Let's try one while we're here. So, how does that come off? You know what, rather than mess about, it's probably better that I have a look at the manual and see if there's any indication of how these come out, because it looks like they squeeze together and come out that way, upwards. But if that's the case, how do they come out? Maybe they just leave it out. Let me have a look and I'll come back. Okay, I've unscrewed the first indicator. So we have the main screw thread on it with a nut, 2 clamps that the metal wire headlamp holding bracket fitted through, and then into the bowl where there is another screw attached to the bowl itself, and then finally a lock nut on the inside. So I will now remove the other one, and that bracket is loose. Okay, I shall bring you back when the other indicator's out of the way, and we'll move on to getting these little indicator lights out. Second indicator's out of the way now, and the metal bar that runs round the back, which was loose. I also found the second rivet that was missing from the back of the bulb holder, so presumably that all got damaged when the headlamp brackets got bashed. And then a quick exploratory pull, and these bulb holders just come out. Which is good. So with the rubber, the rubber out of the way from the headlamp bowl, push that through the back, all the wiring should come through, which just leaves a little earth tag, which we'll pull out, and then our switch, which has 2 small screws locating the blue and the brown wire, which is where the extraneous wire had just been wrapped round rather than re-secured. I'm not entirely sure why that was. Anyway, we just need to undo those with a small screwdriver, which I happen to have to hand. But it might be, oh no, there we go, I was going to say they might be a bit tight for my little screwdriver, but they're not. So all of that should just pull through the headlamp, like so. That should detach from there, which it doesn't want to, of course, because it's being filmed. That should just pull out of there, which it still doesn't want to do, despite helping it on its way. There we go. Okay, so that just leaves our headlamp securing screw and its little bracket. Just unscrews. Another rubber bung here, which should just push out, and does. And then our switch is secured by a nut, which I'll have to try and find a spanner for. It's quite big. Bigger than 3/4. Let's see what we've got. too big. There we go. But I'm not. So out comes our little switch and its associated washers and a spring washer. Which just leaves these, which looking at them I think compress and come out this way. Right. I'm going to have to hold this close to me to do it, so I'll turn you off and bring you back. Yep, as suspected, they're on a ramped piece of plastic. You just need to compress them slightly, kink them to one side, and compress again, jiggle it, and out they come. So there are telltales, one of which, well, I don't know is the answer because the British haven't necessarily done the same thing. I'm assuming that's oil being red. I shall have to look it up. I'm assuming that's indicators being orange. Green, possibly high beam. I'd expect it to be blue, but you know, I'll check, I'll look it up. And then the bowl itself is undented. The chrome's not perfect, but I have no intention of replacing it. As I say, I want as many original parts as possible. It is a very old bike. And once that's cleaned up and been buffed, I think it'll be acceptable. And then once coated with some sort of preservative to keep it clean, it'll be fine. I have no intention of replacing it anyway, that's for sure. And then last but not least, in our bench stripped down of the parts we removed earlier, we have our rear light with its broken lens. So let's get that off and have a look. Shame about that crack, but it's gone, as you can see, it's gone right through all the way around virtually. Shame. So it's going to have to be a repop. Because although Lucas ones exist, God knows what they're made nowadays. They're not British made anymore, I don't think. I may be wrong, but I don't think they are. Right, so that holds that on. And there's your wiring. Right, we shall look at that when we get the rest of that off. I didn't really need to undo that, but I've done it now, so there's no point worrying. I really must learn to look in the workshop manual. My life would be so much easier if I could just get stuck in. So a broken indicator, a broken lens, which I think, looking at it, is just a lens. That's coming off. That's part of that. And that's been, don't know if you can see that. It's been connected with a crimp connector, so that's not original. Let's get the other one off. The indicator's been, is this actually Lucas? Let me just check this. Pull that off there because I don't want that. Now then. The repro. They're Lucas copies. So at some point the originals have either gone missing or been damaged. Let me just have a look and see if the front ones are genuine Lucas. and they are. So the front ones are still genuine, Lucas England, and the part number and the registered design number. So somebody's changed the rear indicators. Presumably they got broken or they stopped working. Right. So whilst we're working away here, our grab rail's held on by the number plate mounting bracket, which has nuts on the back. So I shall lay it on one side, reposition the camera to make sure you can see what's going on, and we'll get that off. Okay, that's you back in focus, I hope. So the rear number plate mount, 4 nuts and bolts through the guard, which also traps the grab rail. So I'll just undo these top 2 and I'll take the rest off. The rear light bracket, I can't see yet, so I'll have to come back to you on that one. But once I get these out of the way, we'll have a better idea. So I'll just do this one, and then you can assume that removal of the other 3 is exactly the same, which it will be. Again, quite possibly famous last words. Right, the battery's running out, so I'll just show you this quickly before I take the rear light unit off, because again, there's no real need to see me do that. This is the tarmac I was talking about. That's the securing nuts. It's just taken me 5 minutes nearly to chip off all the stuck on tar around the bolts. Real pain. Anyway, I'm going to undo those, take the rear light holder assembly, whatever you want to call it, off. And there's a 3rd bolt here at the back. And then I'll undo these clips, which are crosshead set screws on this side with little nuts on the other side. And now the mudguard's off, the little nuts are not that rusty, so I'm not expecting any major problems. There's 4 of those to undo. And then the rear mudguard will be stripped. So I might as well just undo these now and bring you back when A, it is stripped, and B, I've got the battery recharged. Right, rear light support is now off. We have a speed clip that holds the single bolt at the back, and then a bridge piece which holds the bolts at the front and also supplies the thread for the indicators. A remarkably hefty piece of steel for a relatively light duty, but there you go, that's the solidity of British made product. The clips are off the pipe now, which is free. It's going to be reused. It's a bit hard, but there's nothing wrong with it, and once it's in place there is no movement associated with it anyway. The little clips are all going to need cleaning and replating. I'm going to try out some home zinc plating, which I'll do a video on as well. Right, 3rd time lucky with this clip. First of all, I did it where I realised you couldn't see what I was doing. I then started re-recording it and the battery died halfway through. So, rear mudguard. Now off, everything's taken off here, including the pipe work and the little clips as I mentioned before. It is marked, there are tiny pits in it, but they are very small. I'm going to do my best to clean this up and reuse it. 1, because I want to keep as much of the original bike as I possibly can. And 2, having experienced some reproduction stuff when I did my Triumph Bonneville, I would rather have this and it being less than perfect than some of the repro stuff. In fact, I could show you a wheel rim, I will do in a later video, a wheel rim which I got from a well-known supplier, and the bike it is attached to has not gone outside yet. It's been in a nice, clean, dry double garage, and it's going rusty already. So God knows what will happen to it when it hits the outside world. So I'd rather stick with Birmingham's 1970s chrome, even if it is less than absolutely perfect. So it'll be interesting to see how well this comes up. I'll get it on the buffing machine later, and then when we're going into that part of the video, we'll just have a look and see how well it goes. So that's it for the strip down of the ancillary parts. I can't do any more today until I get the nuts for the cylinder head and I get my extractor for the clutch. So hopefully the next video will be removing the engine, and then we'll pull the rest off the frame, which is not a lot really. We've got front forks and both wheels, swinging arm, and it will be completely disassembled. So that's it for the minute.